We're live and now recording.
Thanks, Katie. Can we begin with roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Antonio,
Here.
Mr. Badger,
Here.
Mr. Bleefeld, Ms. Kiavachi,
Here.
Mr. Frank,
Here.
Mrs. Heyman,
Here.
Ms. Kariunikis,
Here.
Dr. Morris,
Here.
Mrs. Ginsburg,
Here.
Gavin Lewis Richmond,
Here.
and Blake Zimmerman.
Here.
9 present, 0 absent, and 2 student board reps this evening.
Thanks, Katie. Will everyone now please join me reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? Welcome, everyone, to our meeting this evening. This is our September 26th work session of the Wissahickon School Board. So welcome to everyone here in person as well as online. Looking through our agenda, the first section lists out our prior meetings. We had a Health, Wellness, and Safety Committee meeting on August 22nd, as well as a regular public board meeting. And then on September 18th, we had a Communications Committee meeting and a Policy Committee meeting. We also list out our upcoming meetings. October 2nd will be our next regular public board meeting. October 16th will be a Health, Wellness, and Safety and Racial Equity Oversight Committee meeting. October 30th, another work session. And then November 13th, our regular public board meeting. Now moving on to our presentations. Our first one will be the Wissahickon High School Monthly Highlights.
Well, hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your summer. We're just getting back to the groove of school. So some highlights for this month. So on the first day of school, seniors did senior sunrise. I didn't go because it's way too early for me, but a lot of seniors woke up early and saw the sunrise together. Just a way to celebrate our last year at the high school. And then this month is also Hispanic Heritage Month. That's from September 15th to October 15th. And the way we're celebrating it is we have the library displaying fiction books by Hispanic authors and nonfiction focused on Hispanic culture. And as well as that, on 9/11, to commemorate it, we had Camarada sing a couple of songs and also show a video about 9/11. And also we have, going back to celebration, there's a Hispanic club. They had their first interest meeting today. And then we have the Black Student Union also having our first interest meeting on Thursday. So some fun things to look forward to.
To add on to what Gavin said, we at Wisslink hosted our freshman orientation the Friday before school started. That went very well. Actually, all of our student board reps are in Wisslink. So it was basically 2 Wisslink leaders, which are upperclassmen, got a group of their own freshmen, and they took them to classes. They gave them tours around the high school, gave them tips on how to succeed in high school, and has built relationships with the freshmen. So that went very well. We also had an activities fair for the freshmen. So in the Circle Gym, we had almost every club and activity that the freshmen could participate in. So all the representatives came out so that the freshmen could connect with where they want to connect and get involved into the high school early. Sports wise, Wiss boys water polo won the whole tournament called Flight to Beasts of the East. So congratulations to them. They won that whole tournament, so champions. And all of our, and girls, oh, definitely. All of our sports are doing great. We have field hockey this fall. We have field hockey, girls tennis, girls volleyball, cross country, and girls water polo. And also football has been off to a great start. They're actually 4-1 this season. And they're playing Springfield this Friday for their homecoming game. Speaking of homecoming, we have our homecoming celebrations this week. Tomorrow night is going to be a 3v3 basketball tournament, and then followed by Minithon is hosting a flag football powder puff game. So that's raising money for childhood cancer. And then homecoming bonfires on Thursday with food trucks, long games, and music. So we're looking forward to that as well. And then there's a homecoming tailgate before the football game Friday night. And then on Saturday night, there's a homecoming dance. So we're looking forward to all of that. It's an exciting week.
Wow, that is a lot. Hopefully that's up on the website somewhere so that if we want to attend anything, we can find it. Great. Well, that's awesome. Sounds like a lot of really great things are happening at the high school. Any questions or comments from my fellow board members?
I have a comment. Like,
Yes.
I follow an Instagram account called, I think, WHS Fans, and I think I see you in every single post leading the crowd. It's unbelievable. I just have to say, it's unbelievable.
I saw the comment. It was, yeah, we love our themes. We do themes for every football game and we post it on that account. So I've been going all out for the themes recently. Yeah, definitely, to say the least.
I love it. And I'm so excited. I feel like the high school really has gotten off to like a really great start of the year. I feel like a lot of community bonding and the kids coming together. So it's really exciting to see. One parent actually reached out to me about Wistlinks, and the parent was like loving it, thought that it was such a huge benefit. They're really, the freshmen are really feeling like they have someone to reach out to. And that's really huge because like, it's such a big, change for them. So know that the community and the parents are all loving all the work that's being done. And the girls won Beast of the East as well, just to be clear. Just so you know. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, again, thank you so much for that update. All right, we'll now move on to our new staff introduction.
Good evening. So I'm very excited to introduce to you our newest members of the WIS family. As you know, it was a very busy summer, but well worth it to bring in this exceptional group and for them to join our district. So we have a total of 40 new teachers and which includes our LTS. So we'll introduce some of our new WIS members through this video.
Hi, I'm Mark Thompson. I am the long-term sub for health and physical education at Shady Grove Elementary.
Hi, my name is Danielle Colon. I'll be teaching first grade at Shady Grove.
Hello, my name is Sonia Matura. I'll be teaching 5th grade in Lower Gwinnett.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Farrell, and I am a 4th grade teacher at Shady Grove Elementary School. Hi, I'm Miss Skylar Fortescue. I'm going to be a 5th grade teacher this year at Bluebell Elementary.
Hola estudiantes, my name is David Lara. I'm going to be with Wissahickon High School. I'm going to be one of the new Spanish teachers. I'm going to be teaching Spanish 1, Spanish 2.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Walker. I will be a learning support teacher at Wissahickon High School.
Hi, I'm Greg Byerly. I'm going to be learning support at Wissahickon High School this year.
Hello, my name is Rachel Young. I am the new 5th grade teacher here at Lower Gwinnett Elementary.
Hello, my name is Anne-Marie Mullen. I am the emotional support teacher at Shady Grove Elementary School.
Hi, my name is Macy Siegel. I'm going to be a long-term sub in the high school in 10th grade learning support.
Hi, I'm Lauren Eckert. I'm a long-term sub for special education at Lower Gwinnett Elementary.
Hi, my name is Devin Cohen. I'm a speech therapist. I'm working at Shady Grove Elementary.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Salas. I'm going to be a school counselor at Shady Grove Elementary.
Hi, my name is Erin Haggerty Larkin. I am a substitute learning support teacher at Lower Gwinnett Elementary.
Hi, I'm Senorita Carly LaRusso. I am the new middle school Spanish teacher.
My name is Sarah Lansdowne Flannery, and I teach Japanese language and culture at the high school.
I'm Melissa Schiff. I'm going to be working at the high school as a resource counselor.
Bonjour, my name is Clotilde Fallon. I'm the French teacher in Wissahickon Middle School.
Hello, my name is Spencer Cole, and I'm going to be a 5th grade teacher at Bluebell Elementary this year.
My name is Christine DeMarco. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Shady Grove Elementary.
John Walker. I have the opportunity to be the assistant principal at Wissahickon Middle School.
Hello, my name is Jenna Mangold. I am a long-term substitute teacher at Lower Gwinnett Elementary School in 1st grade.
Hi, my name is Alicia Teji, and I will be teaching 5th grade at Stony Creek Elementary, and I am so excited.
One thing I hope students learn this year is just how unique they are.
And what I hope my students learn this year is that they have the potential to be whatever they want to be and to be happy.
Find new things to love about Japan.
Learn how to power through and keep on going.
Enjoy learning more French and the culture
and everything that it has to do with French.
Find something that they are passionate about that they hope to continue studying after they leave my classroom.
And kindness and empathy.
Our students include each other.
Some problem-solving strategies to help them.
Enriching their communication skills.
It's just gaining confidence in and outside of the classroom.
Trying new things, especially in 5th grade.
Learn and grow and create lifelong memories.
I hope my students learn how to stay curious.
Learn and love physical activity.
Build a strong learning environment in our classroom.
Strengthen their reading and math skills.
To be more resilient and to challenge themselves in new ways as we prepare for middle school.
Grow an appreciation for other cultures and ways of life.
Learn to make new friends in a healthy way.
We're going to learn about food, about school activities, a little bit about Hispanic culture, and we're going to have a great time.
To just have a positive work ethic that they can take with them and carry over to the rest of their life.
I hope that students learn to love reading and that love of reading lasts their whole life through.
Starting a new classroom community and creating a warm, welcoming environment. I'm so excited.
All right, let's welcome our new employees.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting that together. I just
Well,
love.
I can't take credit
energy.
for actually putting it together. That was Kristen Rawlings and Sue DuPoit. DuPoit, that's how we say it, yeah. But yeah, it's a wonderful video. We share it with all of our staff on our first day. So they got to see the preview. I know you got to see it too. So yeah, wonderful.
Yes, that's just like great. It's just such a great feeling to have so much energy at the beginning of the school year and just watching that and seeing how happy and excited they are to come back to school or start here.
Yep,
That's
great group.
awesome. Thank you. And thank you to Kristen and Sue for putting that together. Any other comments or questions? Nope. All right, then we'll move on. Recognition of recently tenured staff.
Okay, that is also me. Just as a reminder, I'll tell you a little bit about tenure. So next up is our annual presentation of teachers receiving tenure. In the state of Pennsylvania, teachers acquire tenure after teaching in the same public school district for 3 years and maintaining a satisfactory rating during that time. Basically, what tenure is just providing greater employment protections, and it changes their status from a temporary professional to a professional employee. So let's begin. So this evening we have William Grande from our 4th grade teacher at Bluebell, Jennifer Apple, our 3rd grade teacher at Lower Gwinnett, Larissa Cantwell, 4th grade teacher at Lower Gwinnett, Amanda Hadaway, our nurse, our school nurse at Lower Gwinnett, Tyler Rossi, our health and PE teacher at Lower Gwinnett, Caroline Mengis, our 1st grade teacher at Shady Grove, Dylan Opper, 5th grade teacher at Shady Grove, Elise Holmes, special education teacher at Stony Creek, Jennifer Kohler, special education teacher, Stony Creek, Lindsay Rosenberg, kindergarten teacher at Stony Creek, Martin Ashdale, science teacher at the high school, and Samantha Parkin, special education teacher at the middle school. So please join me in congratulating our newest tenured professionals.
Thank you again for that presentation. Any questions or comments?
Am I allowed to say that my kids had Jen Apple last year and she was just so fantastic and it was really nice to see her face up there. We're really lucky to have her. Thank you.
And you know what else would be a nice presentation to share with the board at some point, all of the teachers that were at their 25-year mark or higher. It was amazing to see how many teachers we've had in our district for over 25 years.
So also at our opening day, we do a celebration of those who have been with us for 25 years or more. And at 25 years, they get a pin. So a special pin. So
What's the longest year person?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, not who they are, but
No, I know 30 something. I think we have somebody that's 30 plus.
38? Wow.
It might have been 38. Yeah, you could be right. Yeah.
Do we show that video here, Danielle?
No.
No.
What's that?
The The like 25-year plus?
We did
video?
not show that here. We showed it on the first day that our teachers came back.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just share the list out with the board, because I'm sure there'll be many familiar names. Thank you. All right, then moving on, facility summer projects report.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for entertaining me. It's just a tough act to follow after that video, so. Katie, what button is it? Okay. Jeffrey, sorry. All right, cool. All right, thanks. Okay, so thank you for allowing me to do this presentation, our yearly presentation. We've been pretty busy over the summer, as you'll see in the next few slides. We have some large capital projects going on and a couple smaller projects that our Wissahickon staff is taking care of. I appreciate the continued support over the year with all the projects that we have to complete, both the administration and the board. So thank you. So this is one of our smaller projects that we did over the summer. This is the field house at the field, right? Both the field house and both ticket booths, we replaced the roof this year, and that job is 99% complete. They have a little thing to come back on that. But that's what it looks like if you were interested what the roof is looking like. This was a big one for us. This was the repaving of the high school football parking lot. The picture on the left you can see was prior to the repair being done. And this was milled down and then repaved and then relined and striped there. One of our bigger projects going on is the multi-purpose turf field project. So the picture on the left is the existing home plate for the baseball field. And the picture on the right shows you looking down the right field line on the softball field. Again, this is an old and a new. The picture on the left is from the outfield of the varsity baseball field, looking towards home plate. And then the picture on the right is a picture showing you the underground detention basin that we had to put in for there. So wanted to make sure you guys had a chance to take a look at that. Right now it's stone. You really can't see everything that went in underneath, but that project is moving very well. Moving to the next major project, as some of you attended the tour we did over there this evening. These are some pictures of our middle school alteration project. As I said during our tour, it was very difficult to keep up with all the pictures. Every time I took a picture, something else had changed the next week. And so we're very happy with the movement of this project. But the first few pictures here shows you some of the beginning stages. Right after they filled the pool in and began to build some of the walls. And then it was on the left side. And then the right side is some area that was excavated. And then we had to pour concrete in to bring the floor level up. There's a picture, an old and a new picture of our roof over top of that space that is now nice and renovated. So it's nice and watertight. And we have some additional ventilation means up there, which are shown on the right-hand side. Continuing with the middle school, this is a mid view of one of the restrooms over there with the tile work that was completed. And then our vestibule where we started our tour this evening with new doors all the way around and a nice walk-off mat area to keep the salt and sand and dirt and everything outside. And as we continue along here, we get into more progress. The left-hand picture was taken only a few weeks ago, but that shows you the casework and some of the lighting and grid work that's in the classrooms. The floor is complete, which is protected now until the project is 100%. The center picture is one of our new bottle filling stations. It's right in the intersection there where the kids have easy access to. And then the picture on the right is a partial picture of a collaborative space over in that area, which has a long whiteboard. It'll have several high top tables that they can move around for different educational purposes. And finally, for the middle school, this is a very nice picture of one of the just about completed bathrooms or restroom areas. And so we're looking forward to being able to use this very soon. So another smaller project we did over the summertime was to mill down and replace the blacktop on the Lower Gwinnett Nature Trail. This was completed throughout the whole trail, and this is just a few pictures of showing you the completed work. An important safety project we did in the spring was to put a fence around the circle there at the Shady Grove for the playground and the Gaga pit area. So this is just a few pictures of that to show you that this was completed. Here at the central office, we had a aging chiller that needed to be replaced, and that came in mid-May. So that was replaced right before they got really, really warm in here, thankfully. And so there's a couple shots of that, the new one on the way out and the new one and the old one on the way out on the left, and the new unit sitting in place on the right prior to them making any connections. Here's a small project that our Wissahickon staff, maintenance staff took care of. This is over at our transportation office. We've been updating and making the transportation office more comfortable for our drivers and staff. The flooring over there was replaced with carpeted tile. So this is a project that our staff had done. Another small, the left-hand picture is excavation and preparation that the Wissahickon staff did of Bluebell. The need to move the equipment in the right-hand picture, the right playground equipment, out of the area where the new driveway is going in the front of the building needed to happen. So our staff did the excavation, and then the contractor came in and put all the relocated the equipment from one spot to another. So there's a shot of that. Smaller project. This is our middle school family and consumer science classroom. There was a need to add a second kitchen and a workspace for the students in there. So this is just one of several pictures. That this is new countertops and sinks in the background. There's a new stove, so they now have two separate education areas with the kitchen areas, including stoves. We also added in some storage there. We relocated some storage to make more space for sewing machines, and then all the electric and countertops were put in for the sewing machines. This is Stony Creek. One of the fun projects the guys got to do this summer was to assemble the new Gaga pit over there, and a thank you to the Stony Creek HSA for their donation. And they were very excited to see that in place, and it was used the day after we got done with it. So just like that's all I have for this evening. I'd just like to say thank you again for your continued support with the facilities department. Very fortunate to have come here with a great plan in place, and being part of that and moving the district forward is I feel very proud to be doing that. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. We have so many great presentations this evening. It looks like it was a busy summer and we got a lot of great projects completed. Do any of my fellow board members have any comments or questions about the project? Yeah, Jeff. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a question about I know towards the end of last school year, there was some discussion about the turf field project and the impact it was going to have on the parking situation at the high school.
Yes.
How's that been managed, or how's that working out so far?
So we worked with the school that we told them what areas were going to be blocked off by fencing. And so far, I've been over there several times, and so far we're okay with parking. There's still quite a few spots open. They purposely didn't assign those parking spaces, and we're going to keep up with that. And as soon as we're ready to move, release the spots, we will.
Great. And when's the scheduled completion date for the turf project?
That is the beginning of November.
Oh, so just around the corner.
Yes, right around the corner. We expect to get to have them ship the turf soon. So.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Stephanie?
So I just wanted to say that I think the group is doing a great job, great work. The turf project, to be honest, I voted yes, but I was on the fence on that one, but I do think it was a good decision. my son plays soccer, and because of all the rain we had, it keeps getting canceled. So with the turf, they'll have more, chances to play. But overall, I think the team is doing a great job. Thanks for stepping in and kind of providing your leadership. I know, you had to learn quickly and kind of jump in with both feet. So we appreciate what you've done so far. We're looking forward to the continued efforts. Keeping our buildings safe and growing with our community is a very important thing for us. So thank you for what you've done thus far.
Sure. Thank you.
And thank you for the tour earlier this evening. It was wonderful to see the progress, remembering when there was a pool there. And now, you would never have known there was a pool there. It's amazing and what beautiful space. I don't recall it, the turf project. Did we end up putting in, I know we're not putting in lighting at this time, but did we put in what was necessary to have lighting in the future?
So if I could jump in on that one, it was purposeful that we would not do lighting at this point in time, for several reasons. The conduit is put in so that if a future board or administration down the road and the community, truthfully, I think the hope was that if we built it and the community would come along, and if they demanded lighting, that might be the way to go.
I just want to make sure we put in what was necessary to have it in the future. So great. Any other comments or questions? Oh, yeah, Rosetta.
It's all the craze. So it's its own little world. It's a rectangular pit that has a door that opens and there's very specific rules, and it's kind of dodgeball enclosed in this small area.
Okay.
So yes.
Thanks.
Yes. You're very welcome.
Dodgeball.
I've never played, so.
Wonderful sport
Where's
to
that
teach elementary kids.
Whereas that I've watched Gaga Ball a lot of times and it's still not 100% on the rules. So I just sort of say, hey, my kids enjoy it. Great.
So what you mean is it's like field hockey. No one really knows what it is.
Well, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you so much. All right, so we will now move on to our first public comment period, which is on agenda items only. I don't have anyone registered in person for the first one. Do we have anybody online? No? All right, then we'll move on to the board president report. And the first item that we have is approval of the 23-24 district goals and ongoing priorities. And this will be informational this evening. We'll be voting next week. So I think, Katie, you were going to put it up on the screen. And these are the goals we previously discussed, and I think there was just some tweaking based on our prior discussion.
Thank you for those who provide some feedback on the wording and also not just the wording, but the need to include somewhere, which you're going to see here in a second, a tracker of sorts as to progress, and then also some information about what strategies we'll use to accomplish these goals, and also strategies we'll use to communicate out things about them. So as you discussed them, and as you mentioned, we've basically gone over these before, but you'll see up on this is a live shot of our website, and so anyone will be able to track not just what the goals are, but progress towards it.
And that'll be, it says here under strategic goals section of the library tab. That's where members of the public can find it. Great. And just going through them, our first goal, and these are in no particular order of priority, but the first one is to finish the 3-year process of examining the viability of later school start times and end times in Wissahickon, with detailed plans for how various identified challenges will be met by our district, specifically shared out at public meetings with multiple opportunities for stakeholder feedback, all with the intent of implementing the new start times, if board approved, at the start of the 24-25 school year. And this is year 3 of 3 of this goal. And I believe we do have a presentation this evening on that, correct?
Yes.
So we'll be hearing more about that shortly. The second goal, support the implementation of a district-wide positive behavioral intervention and supports PBIS framework that includes an emphasis on belongingness, anti-bullying, and conflict resolution. Number 3, conduct a comprehensive review of long-term enrollment projections and how they match up against capacity at all 6 district schools, and update as necessary the district's long-term 5+ years plan for ensuring the district's facilities meet both enrollment and educational needs. Number 4, finalize the transition to using board docs as an efficient, easily accessible online warehouse for all district board meeting documents and policy documents, and increase utilization of board docs over the course of the year by multiple groups in order to enhance the district's ability to communicate with all stakeholders. And I will say it is getting easier to use in meetings. Number 5, fill key staffing vacancies in district leadership positions and carry out a plan to recruit, hire, retain, and support these key employees and others in fulfilling their daily leadership responsibilities in a positive working environment. And number 6, conduct a parent guardian awareness reach out campaign to include such topics as how to best advocate for and support your child at school, how the community can get involved at the school and district level, etc. And I will say also with that one, at back to school night, it was wonderful to get handouts showing who to communicate with in the school. That was very helpful. So those are our district goals for the coming year. Any comments or questions? Yeah, Zephy.
Thanks for the revisions and the changes from last time. I appreciate the changes. I still am feeling that goal number 2 and goal number 4 need a little bit more refinement. Goal number 2 feels a little too open-ended to me and doesn't explain the how or the by. So I feel like we need something a little bit more meatier there maybe. And then for goal number 4, how are we going to measure the increased utilization? Are we going to set a goal? Are we just going to say more people are coming on to board docs? And that doesn't necessarily have to go in the language, but I feel like, how are we going to do that? This just feels a little too arbitrary to me. How are we going to measure that? We're already at 33%. How are we going to get to 100%? I need to get a little bit more substance around that. So again, thank you for the refinements. I think we're moving in the right direction. I just feel like we need a little bit more tweaking.
I think that's a good point. So what our thought was is on each goals page on board docs, what we see here tonight and what Amy just read were essentially the goal statements. And then behind that will be more content, more information, such as what are we expecting for board docs usage and how might we measure it? And to get your point, also maybe number 2, it might not exist right now, like all the strategies for PBIS, but as they develop, we can plug them in there so people can see them as the year goes by. We just kind of wanted to get to the point where, okay, as a district, our value, well, one of the things we value is these things that has, say, for example, anti-bullying, conflict resolution. That's what we want. And then on here, not in the statements, but in the nice thing about board docs, it'll give us an opportunity to elaborate on strategies and how we measure success or not.
Right. No, I get it. It's just we're trying to emphasize belongingness, anti-bullying, and conflict resolution, which I agree wholeheartedly, obviously, but it feels very open-ended. It just doesn't feel like it almost feels like a wish and not like, how are we going to do it? Or, the structure around it. I feel like it's such an important aspect for our students, for our community, for our teachers. I feel like we need to be a little bit more grounded there. So maybe think about that a little bit more and see if there could be a little bit more language put in there. Thank you.
Jim,
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry, to build on Zephy's point about goal 2. I think maybe just something as simple as, rather than supporting the implementation, talk about what's the implementation goal for this year around PBIS, right? So how will you measure, or what level of implementation do you expect, or do we have as a goal by the end of the year? Something more tangible and more specific that's actually measurable. Generally speaking, when you implement some kind of new program or intervention like PBIS, I think makes more sense initially to focus on implementation goals on getting it in place in the district. And then once it's in place, then you can focus on outcome goals more oriented towards the impact on students, right? But I think first, we have to make sure that it's implemented with fidelity, and then after that, we can see the impact that it's having on kids over time. But I think for this year, just some more specificity about what we expect to be implemented or hope will be implemented by the end of the year around PBIS would, I think, help.
I think that's fair, Joe. Thanks.
And then the second thing, I also had a comment similar to Zepi on number 4 regarding board docs. And I think board docs has the potential to be a good tool for us in terms of managing documents and making them more accessible. But one thing I wanted to note is that in board docs like this, these district goals are in the public content section of the agenda. But other items like that we reviewed tonight, for example, the Brian's facilities report, the new staff introduction video, those things are in a separate section called executive content, which is not publicly viewable. So if I was a member of the audience, like watching from home, I would not be able to like access those documents myself. So I would ask and recommend that at a minimum after board meetings, all that stuff that we see here goes into the public content view, accessible by everyone. And ideally before, or certainly by the start of the meeting, it's in the public content view, with the exception of stuff that's like client privilege or confidential information, obviously.
I can address that because we definitely plan on moving it all over to the public section. Anything that's obviously not privileged, but the approach of keeping it in exec session for not executive session, but administrative section for now is a courtesy. We over the years it's been asked of us to have the board be the first people to see things, and in a public board meeting, and then next day or even like tomorrow morning we can move it all over so that somebody looking back can absolutely see this material. But it's just sort of, we've always operated as this courtesy to the board. You get to see it first. But there will be nothing that's left there in the restricted areas other than say legal guidance and proprietary information.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item, which is approval of Lou Kim as the board treasurer for the 23-24 school year. So we'll be approving that next week at our board meeting. Next, we'll move on to our superintendent report. Jim?
Thank you. 2 items. The first is a look at our enrollment update, which we'll share up on the screen. And as everybody knows, the state uses the 10th day of school as the official counting date to compare one year to the next, and also to report enrollment information to the state. So that date was, in this case, September 12th. And up on the screen will be a comparison of last year's 10th day to this year's. So it won't be what you may see or know about in terms of the last day of school. It's actually one point in time to the next. And in blue are the numbers from last year, which includes the top part of this document will be the elementary schools. And as we go down, we'll see that the elementary totals are there. And what I want to do is, and we certainly have plenty of time to answer any questions, but I want to start from the bottom. The bottom line, if you will, literally, is that we had an increase from one year to the next of 99 students, which is just a little under 2%. Most of that increase was at the elementary level. You can see a little bit of increase, 24 at the middle school, and maybe 6 or so at the high school. The key number on this, the most key number on this whole page is the elementary total for kindergarten this year, which is, as you can see there, it's 370 right there. That's actually lower than what our demographer had projected for this school year, which is actually really good news for our buildings and our facilities, which are, as we know, heavily used at this point, to the point where we're actually building on constantly, it seems like. So that 370 number will carry through the grades from year to year, and that will provide some relief as we go down. Of course, the demographer will have a different number projection for the next year. And we are recommissioning, or not recommissioning, but re-engaging with the demographer to provide us those updates in December, which is the normal time that those updates get provided. We'll share them all out with the board. And again, now that 370 number is known, it's easy enough to predict through what the typical, what we call retention rate of that 370 is. It grows a little bit each grade. But it's not the 408 that was predicted. So that's good news.
Jim, a comment about the kindergarten cohort. If you look at the cohort sizes for to the right of kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, you'll notice that for the past 4 or 5 years, we've had kindergarten cohort sizes that were well in excess of 400, which was much higher than what we'd previously seen like 5 to 10 years beforehand, where they were, I think, in the neighborhood of this 370 number. So it's good in a sense that we're returning kind of like to like more of a normal level that we've seen in the past, but just recognizing that the prior 4 years or 5 years, we had really large kindergarten cohorts. Now they're just like sort of working their way through the system, and they're eventually going to get up to the middle school and the high school as well. But yeah, so it's the fact that we had 370 this year, which is significantly lower. It's hard to say if that's like a blip and we're going to return to 400 plus each year, or if that's a new normal. It'll just take some time, I think, for it to play out and for us to get a better sense of what the trend is going to be.
One other note on this, Katie, if you could scroll back up to Shady Grove's. Yeah, right there. So you can see Shady Grove in grade 1 has 136 students, which translate to 7 sections. That's new territory for us. Yeah, that was my reaction too. It's like, I mean, it is what it is. There's 136 students in that grade level. And you can see all the way across, Shady has also busted through the 700 barrier, and there are 709 students. So to Joe's point, those higher numbers, including the highest, the 470 in grade 4, is kicking in. And it will, how the future, and we'll talk about the past here in a second with a look back, but the future, which we'll get in December, depends entirely on if that's 370 again, or 400 or 420. That's kind of what it all depends on.
Jim, do we know why that number came in lower than expected?
Can't have a reason. It used to be much easier to predict kindergarten enrollments because many fewer people would have live births outside of the county or outside of the community. So you could take that community's hospitals rate 5 years prior and use that pretty reliably. Now it's different. Now being like the last 20 years or so. So people tend to travel longer or farther away to have live births, and it's harder to count them. And also people move. Yeah.
Jim, I do have a question about class sizes because we have had some questions about that from parents. And I'm just looking at some of the numbers, and I'm in no way suggesting that we should have done this, but for example, Lower Gwinnett second grade, we have 5 sections there, 22, 22, 22, 21, and 21. We also could have had 4 sections of 27. Again, not suggesting that in any way. But then we do have at Stony Creek, 27, 26, 26, 26. Like, what goes into that calculation? I know you have to work within our guidelines that we have set as a board, but like, is it based on space we have available to school? How do we exactly determine that the one school would have sections that are much smaller, another one much higher?
Okay, so at the top of this sheet, you see in yellow the class size guidelines, which are in policy and guidelines. And so they inch up as you go in the grades. 22 is the guideline, and not hard max, but guideline for the first 2 grades, and then 26 and 27. Interesting to note that on this entire sheet for this current school year, there's one grade. Well, first of all, to back up to answer your question, we try as best we can to predict the final numbers, like September, first day of school numbers, around August 1st. We have to finalize staffing decisions, class decisions, people have to get assigned sections. And this year, we thought we'd have a little bit more in Bluebell grade 1. So if you go to that section, that right there is everybody sees 86. That theoretically could have been 4 sections and still been within guidelines. So that was a mistake, well, not a mistake, but as best we could predict, we turned out to lose a couple students for some reason, and it wasn't the 89 we thought it was going to be. So those could theoretically be 4 sections there. Similarly, if you're going to Shady Grove grade 3, you see there's 105 students there. And we thought there'd be more like 103 or 2 or something. And so we thought we planned on 4 sections, and indeed 3 more or so showed up, and one of those sections is over the guideline at 27. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, Katie, that Stony Creek, as of the 10th day, had a class size of 27 in grade 3 there. But that's actually since changed. That's actually, I think, 103, maybe 104.
For grade 2.
Yeah, sorry, grade 2. Thank you. Yeah. So there's 2 places. In this sheet shows 3, but there's actually now reality 2 places where our best projections in August didn't come to fruition. Bluebell could have had 1 fewer sections, and Shady Grove could have had 1 more if we had perfect vision into the future. We rarely, if ever, make these decisions based on available classrooms. It could be the case in a construction year or something we would. It's almost always our best guess at things around August 1st.
And is it that number, so like that 105 or 86, is it that number? Like, do you have a range that if it's going to fall within these numbers, we're going to have this many sections? Like, how does that work?
It's just driven by that top yellow line where it depends on the grade level. So if, let's just take Bluebell Kindergarten, top left one, there's 71. So we had 71 known registrants. Let's say maybe we had 70 at the time if we made these decisions. 3 sections there would have been 3 times 22 or 66. So we couldn't have just 3 that would be immediately over the guideline. So in that instance, we broke it down to 4 so that we're not over the guideline. And on August 1st, we try to break it down as close as we can get to the guideline without going over it. And it just depends on the grade level and the magnitude of the numbers. So again, the Shady Groves grade 1, we took 136. So 6 sections of 22, for example, would have been 132. And we had too many. We had to go to a 7th. If we had 127, say, we would have had 6 sections there of about 20 something or whatever it is.
And the numbers that we use in our guidelines, where do those numbers come from?
The class size guidelines that have been with us for a number of years, they just kind of evolved naturally over the years with a realization that at the primary grades, class sizes, smaller class sizes are generally better as kids are starting to get used to school, getting used to socializing, being in the same space with so many other humans that look and act and are the same age as they are. And then as kids get older, the theory, and which is pretty much shared across the profession, is that class sizes can be larger than as compared to K-1.
And I'm sorry, one more question. Is there everybody consideration into lowering these numbers? Obviously, having fewer students in the classroom gives the teacher an opportunity to have more one-on-one time with students, fewer students for the teacher to have to manage. Have we put thought into re-looking at this policy and lowering those numbers?
We haven't in recently. That might, if we were to say make an official change and let's just bump each guideline number down by 2, let's just say, that would absolutely have an effect on staffing and budget, and it would start to impact facility availability, especially at Bluebell.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie.
What do we do for the classes that are above the guidelines? What do we do for the teachers?
Good question. We have in recent years, and especially like in the middle of the year, let's say 2 students move in and push that, let's just use grade 1 at some place to 23 in a section. Our policy and our guidelines have options for us to consider. We could theoretically create another section in the middle of a school year. That's rarely, if ever, done. It's not really advised. We could hire another teacher to be a floating teacher, another body, like a co-teaching arrangement, just float between the sections. We have more often than not hired an aide. So there's another adult helping, whether it's younger grades cutting, older grades distributing papers
The same aid in the class.
in that grade, just distributed across. So if let's say first grade would have maybe 4 sections of a very high class size, the aid would be assigned to grade 1, nowhere else in the school. Each of the grade 1s. Well, we never hired more than one. And the thinking there was if one class has 26 and one has 27, that's not much of a difference. The aid can be used. And the teachers all cooperated, and you know how it is grade level, and they get together and next thing you know, they have a plan for that aid that maximizes that person's usefulness. And it is a help. It's still the high class sizes though, to your point. I mean, the only way around that would be to create a whole nother section mid-year, which is not advised.
Yeah, so for my fellow board members, I want to just make a statement that the class size guidelines that we have in place are board policy. So if there's, so it's really the board's decision to set or change policy. From an educational standpoint, there's nothing that says that these class sizes are like too big or they're bad. There's many districts where the class size guidelines are much higher. So really it's the board's prerogative if they want to consider changes to the class size guidelines. And in essence, what we're establishing are kind of like maximums. There's no minimums, right? So we have a lot of class sizes that are way below the max. Our district, we have the benefit of being, I'll say, well-resourced and having financial flexibility. So there are many other districts that don't have that financial flexibility. So in scenarios like this, what you find with a lot of districts is they go through a process after the 10th day of enrollment, after enrollment across buildings is stabilized, and look for sort of mismatches and actually move teachers. So for example, if we were another district, again, with more financial constraints, we might say having class sizes of 17 at Bluebell in grade 1 doesn't make sense when we have Stony Creek grade 2 or Stony Creek grade 2 at 27 and 26. So what we could do is we pull a class, collapse a classroom or pull a class teacher out of Bluebell. So then Bluebell has 4 sections of 20 or 20 through 22. And then we add that, we move that teacher over to Stony Creek, open up a new classroom, and then they have like class sizes of 21, right? So that's a way to balance it so that then it's more equitable across buildings. Obviously there's an impact, right? Like a month into school, you're like pulling a teacher out, reconfiguring classrooms. That's pretty disruptive, but that is an option. And many districts do that as just a matter of course. Again, because there's a financial impact to decisions that we make at the board level and that are implemented in the schools around class sizes and what we're willing to accept or fund, right? So, I mean, we can consider changing class sizes, but we also need to understand like the financial impact that that's going to have on us as a district. And there are other options to like make it more equitable and balanced without changing the class size maximums. But again, there's trade-offs, right?
Thank you, Joe. Other comments?
Yeah, so I just looked up the class size in Pennsylvania. So K through 3 is 30, it looks like, and 4 to 12 is 33. That's the maximum, I guess, state guidelines. Is that true?
I don't believe
I'm
that's
trusting the internet.
I can tell you that in my day job working at the School District of Philadelphia, 33 is the maximum class size, and many classrooms are 33 and a little bit over. And again, they don't have the financial resources that our district is fortunate enough to have. So it's, again, the maximum that we set in Wissahickon, we have the flexibility to set them lower than what the state maxims are, but the state maxims are like not something to strive for. They're like a bare minimum, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not
So-
suggesting that at all, Joe.
Yeah, right.
I'm an advocate for smaller.
No, understood.
classes for
I was
sure.
just saying that.
I was just making the comparison that we already are below it. Would I love to see the 2 and 3 drop to 24 and 4 and 5 drop to 20? I would love to see that. The problem is, let's take a real life situation like at Lower Gwinnett Elementary, where I don't think they have another classroom to use right now. We are totally maxed out there. And, then we're talking about a trailer or renting a facility, which wasn't cheap based on what we saw, Bluebell, what we approved there for having a temporary classroom. It would have huge financial implications. Now, I would say if it looks like this is a blip and we're coming back down and the demographer in in December hands us a report that tells us that we're not going to see these numbers close to 500 in the class sizes, then maybe we'll be okay with where we are, and this is what it is. I think we've come to appreciate in this district often being below class size guidelines, and that's kind of what we expect. I think it's best for the kids and for the teacher, and I would love to see it. I just don't know if we can really make it happen realistically without, like I said, putting modular classrooms on the buildings. I guess as a board, we'd have to decide, do we want to do that to probably at least 2 of our schools, right? That's a lot of money. And so when we talk about, trying to keep taxes low, we tried really hard to not go to the max tax increase this year. We want to try to keep all the programs we currently have. I don't know if we could do that feasibly within Act 1. I don't know. Again, if we could lower, how old are these classroom guidelines, Jim? Do you know? How long have we had this size guidelines?
5, 10 years, something like that.
And were they higher before or lower?
The complicating factor, and not to get too far in the weeds here, but the complicating factor in class sizes at the elementary is that sometimes some students are pulled out of the classroom for special education instruction. So there was a time when we tried to count how many students in grade 4 at Stony were pulled out. Was it half the day? Is it 2/3 a day? And that just became splitting hairs. And it's a better approach to just count every student as belonging to the homeroom. And so indeed, in some of these class sizes for math and reading instruction, particularly, there wouldn't be this many students, they'd be pulled out. But that's probably trying to kind of hammer a nail with a bludgeon.
Sorry, Ronnie. So with third, like I know in 4th and 5th grade, like there's kids with GIEPs that get pulled out a fair amount of it, like a good chunk, not a lot, but like an hour and a half in a day, let's say. In grade 3, that probably doesn't happen as much, although maybe there's more like reading support pullouts or other things there. So is that taken into consideration, you're saying?
It's more on the IEP front, special education front, where instruction, sometimes it depends. Sometimes it's the instruction for a student with IEP happens in the classroom. Sometimes it happens entirely out, and sometimes it's a mix. It just kind of depends.
Okay. So realistically, do you think lowering these class size guidelines is like within our financial reach, and also something that you would recommend, or you and Dr. Dewan would recommend for our district?
So the word trade-offs has to come back into this, because there's things that are within our reach, yes. But then we would have to have less of something else. We can't just add this and add the other things we have in mind. I don't feel that these class size guidelines are unrealistic. I think they're realistic, especially when you account for the number of times in a day when some students are pulled out for some reason. But I do like the emphasis on the primary grades having the relatively smaller sizes.
I think that it's important to remember at the elementary level, class size is a huge factor in giving our students a quality education. A teacher can only spread themselves so thin. So I think we should work at keeping it as low as we can.
And I would agree. And I was actually going to ask kind of what you brought up, whether autistic support at Stony Creek was actually included in those numbers. So some of these numbers, although they're higher, they may include students that are, you're saying, are pulled out throughout the day.
Yeah, the answer is any student with an IEP, in other words, a student in a special education program, could be pulled out of the homeroom for instruction. Again, it's usually in math and reading, or much more accurately, math and language arts. It doesn't necessarily have to be in one of our programs like autistic support or emotional support. It could be just any student who has a particular goal in the IEP that requires more attention or a more specialized approach to his or her language arts instruction than can be provided in the classroom, in which case that's a pullout.
And do you know when we and again, this may predate your time here as well, but when we came up with these numbers, do we involve teachers in that discussion to know from their perspective, like how many students they felt were, a maximum number of students they could handle in a particular grade level?
I can't wait to answer this. The teachers are going to tell you these are too high. I'm going to tell you right now. The former teacher to my right is telling us that, and I can guarantee you that if we ask teachers about this, they'll say, we want lower class size.
If they were involved in this conversation?
I don't know.
Okay. Is it possible that we could look at like some comparable districts and just see like what guidelines are in other districts, just to see if this is something we should look into further?
We certainly can. It's going to be hard to get a straight answer out of districts, but we'll try. Because guidelines are just that, guidelines, and actuals are going to be hard to decipher. We can do it, and we could maybe use the same set of districts we often use to compare ourselves to. I wouldn't want to do that independent of the budget cycle, though, because let's say we find that the board decides they would like to knock down their class size by 2 in each grade, just hypothetically. Massive budget impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was going to be another question I had. Like, once we looked at because maybe if we look at comparable districts, they're in line with where we are at. And there's no point in, maybe having a further discussion, or maybe there is, depending on how board members feel. But then we can maybe look at, our available space, whether or not certain buildings would need additional space if we added sections, or if we would need additional teachers, so that we could then have that conversation come budget time. But I think if we just start with just looking and seeing it, and hopefully they have like a cool chart like you put together that will have just all of this information readily available.
Yes, that would be nice.
Well, I think as an initial screen, which should be readily available, is just looking at their board policies on class sizes, right? At least what do they have in policy stated, and just how do those numbers stack up against ours, and then as a starting point.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Rosetta?
Yeah, I just have a question. Do we have any metrics on class size and performance? Like how the kids do based on, like if there's higher class sizes?
That would have to be in research, and it's going to be virtually impossible. Some researchers will tell you they can isolate the effect of that variable, class size, away from all the other effects such as poverty and other things. It's possible. We would never be able to do it here. There is research out there, and to the point, like if any educators ask, well, how about a class size of 24 versus 29? Well, the answer is going to be 24. How much that affects a student's performance on a PSSA is virtually impossible to measure.
Just real quick, I found the North Penn guidelines. Kindergarten 22 to 25, grade 1 to 3, 23 to 26, grade 4 to 6, because they have 6 in elementary school still, 25 to 29.
So the interesting thing is, I think maybe in a previous iteration before the current board policy, we might have had ranges like that too. Like, so whatever, 26 at the upper end and then like 22 on the lower end. But I think in Wissahickon, like when we care when classes are above the max, we completely ignore when they're below the minimum. So we just eliminate the minimum because they're really meaningless, right? So even in North Penn, they have that range, like 25 to 28 or whatever it is. I mean, that minimum floor, I could almost guarantee they're not caring about anything that's below the minimum.
Honestly, the stating of class sizes at elementary level with a minimum doesn't make any sense at all. It makes sense at the high school when you might say, hey, we're not going to ever run any class if it's under 12 or something. We're educating every one of these fourth graders, and it's going to be as high as we can up to the guideline. Minimum actually literally makes no sense.
If anyone's interested in actual research, education research on class size, the one that's most like commonly referenced is known as the Tennessee STAR study. You can just Google it and you'll see it. It's a bit dated now. It's from the 90s. And I think in more recent years, there's been some like dispute or some like contrary research, but the Tennessee STAR study, which has been the one most referenced over the past couple of decades, showed that class sizes do matter, but in general, they matter when class sizes get below 20. If you're talking between like 22 to 25, no difference. 21 to 26, again, no difference. It's really meaningful impact once you get below 20. So when people say class sizes matter, yes, but with an asterisk, right? So again, that's a Tennessee STAR study, but I think in the past 5 years or so, there's been some other research that maybe has a little bit different conclusions. So there is research out there, but I think it's at this point maybe a little bit mixed. And keep in mind when they say class size matters, like at what levels does it matter, right? And some of the numbers we're talking about, I'm not sure that it makes it like a meaningful impact in terms of student outcomes.
Well, one of the other things to think about is not just academic performance, but also we have a lot of students with social emotional needs following COVID. Smaller class size would certainly benefit students and especially our teachers also, again, having to manage classrooms. So yeah, I guess if we could just do that as a starting point though, like Dan already has gotten us kicked off here looking at North Penn, but just look up a couple districts and see if we, perfect, thank you. Any other comments on this?
Before we move off this page, I just wanted to point out a couple numbers that are easy to miss, but I think have an interesting story for us as a district. So if you look at the Wissahickon Virtual Academy for 23-24, the number's 15. So for those of you who might not remember, the Wissahickon Virtual Academy was our own in-house cyber charter. So to provide an option for our students who, for whatever reason, want like an online virtual kind of education, rather than going to like one of the cyber charters in Pennsylvania, we had our own that opened up in-house, I think in the past, like maybe 3 years, kind of as a result of the pandemic. And previously, the district on average had about 24 kids in cyber charters. This is prior to us having our own, right? And so we opened up our own as part of COVID, but also I've been pushing for this, and some other longtime board members will know, I was pushing for this several years before COVID, because we pay tuition for all the kids that go to charters. Thankfully, we have very few brick and mortar charters, unlike a lot of other districts around us. Ours were all cyber, but we have to pay them tuition, right? And for us, a cyber kid, we owe the cyber charter $16,500 per kid. If they're special ed, it's $42,000, right? So 24 of these every year going out there, not a lot, but if we had an in-house option, which, you know, I believe we could do a higher quality and at lower cost, because we partner with the MCIU. I think our cost maybe is about $5,000 per kid, if I remember correctly. So again, $16,500 going to a cyber charter, which have terrible record academically, or $5,000 to keep them in-house at Wissahickon and graduate with a Wissahickon degree. So it was like a no-brainer, right? The column on the right shows that in total, we have 23 kids in cyber charter, which I assume is inclusive of our 15 plus another 8 that are still in non-Wissahickon, or the two separate like populations. Okay, so the point is that the more that we can get the cyber charter outside of our district and into our Wissahickon Virtual Academy, for every one of those kids, we're netting a positive difference financially, plus also, I believe, giving them a higher quality education as well. So a few years ago, that was 0, right? But now we have 15 kids. So the program is relatively new, but it's growing, and hopefully it continues to grow and could crowd out the non-Wissahickon cyber charters.
And actually, technically, that 15 is for the high school, that you would add to that 4 for the middle school and 1 for elementary. So a total of 20 in the in our virtual academy.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Any other comments or questions?
I also like how our North Montco number has gone up. That's really exciting.
I will say those numbers in the bottom right there, they can fluctuate a great deal over the course of the school year. Things happen, but that we have 13 of our students full-time. This doesn't reflect the number we have part-time, which is much bigger, but 13 students, and we're very proud of them, and we love what they're doing up there.
Very exciting.
All right, again, no more questions or comments? All right, then we'll move on to our next item.
Okay,
Still
this is
future.
still with the 10th day. We have this is looking backwards now over the years, including this current school year, which we just went over, in red, that's the 10th day, and then 5 years prior, just to kind of get a sense of the progression of things, both by school and also district-wide. So again, starting at the very bottom line, district-wide, we've had over 5 years a net increase of about 9.43%, which is 400 some odd students. Each school, elementary schools increase over the 5 years is in blue, with that the corresponding percentage in green. And you can see those 4 rows are the reason why we've built on to Stony Creek and are building on to Bluebell, because of the increase at the elementary level. Our middle and high school populations over the years have not grown by nearly the same percentage, but of course, those students are in our pipeline and coming.
Jim, just to add, I mean, obviously we've had strong growth in the district over the past 5 years, but I recall when I first joined the board in 2015, I think we had about 4,300 kids. So looking even further back, going from 4,300 in 2015 to over 5,100 now, that's like a nearly 20% increase just in the past 8 years. So tremendous growth for the district as a whole. And I think part of that is just the words getting out of what a great district Wissahickon is, which is a great thing, but also, you know, has some challenges for us. But I'd rather be a growing district than a shrinking district because that's a worse set of problems to deal with, I think.
And the increase at Stony Creek between 21, 22 and 22, 23, that has to do with the autistic support program moving over there? Or is that just growth?
It contributes to it. There's not a large number of students who are in that program, but yes, we did move from students from Shady to Stony as a result of that. Maybe 40-ish.
Any other questions or comments about this slide? All right, thank you.
Okay, now you get to hear Jim talk even more because the next item is the superintendent's item number 2, which is a review of school start time research, which I'm going to do first. And then we're going to talk about the plan for sharing out in the fall. School start and end times, and we already looked at this as the first goal for the district, has been something the board has been thinking about for a number of years. Actually, former board members were with us thinking about this as well. And we also were presented with lots of convincing research over the years, which is extremely compelling. So we need to set the table for this discussion by reiterating what we've heard from our students, what we know from research and from qualified medical professionals. We've shared all the citations that we know of, or not all, but many, many on our website. Katie is, of course, helping us see where those are. Anybody who wants to read from the American Academy of Pediatrics or the CDC or any other of these organizations that are essentially concluding the same thing: sleep matters. And sometimes that sleep is related to when school starts. And so that's why this was a goal of ours, because it really matters when school starts in terms of the health of our students. And especially when you start talking about adolescents. So there's an incredible amount of compelling research that shows that later school start times help students with healthier sleep habits. That was the whole genesis of this 3-year goal, to see how that research could possibly be implemented here so that our start times are more consistent with it. And that's what we've been trying to do. You recall that last time, this time last year, we started talking about what it might look like, what times could, but there was a sense that we didn't have enough details shared out with stakeholders as to what it might exactly look like. So we deferred the decision for a year. And what we're going to do now is we're going to share out tonight when this fall specific details will be shared out with all stakeholders, and what topics, what dates, and how. So that's this communication plan. And it starts with August. And there's 2 columns of this. There's a public board meeting column, which is a meeting like tonight. And then there's the right-hand column, which is board committees, because some of these conversations will be in committee level. We've already had one, actually, in September. We talked about this plan in the communications committee. We also had a health, wellness, and safety committee meeting in August about this thing called WUAL, which I'll describe in a second. But we're moving our conversations to public board meetings this fall, as will be outlined here, because we want everybody to get as many details as they can and everyone to hear the same message at the same time. One of the things we learned from last time was different people were hearing different things and concluding different things, and that just didn't work. So on the back to the middle column, public board meetings, you see, as tonight we're reviewing this plan. We reviewed the research. I'm not going to go over it all, but it's very clearly laid out in our website, and it's very compelling. And then we're going to share out tonight how we're going to talk about details of different segments. We're going to kind of try to chunk this conversation in ways that we feel make sense. So as you go down through the months in October, we actually have our next board meeting in 6 days. So on Monday, that's when we're going to introduce this organization called Wake Up and Learn, acronym WALL. People don't like when I say WALL, so we're just going to call it Wake Up and Learn. However, this organization is awesome because it's staffed with a number of very qualified people who are interested in sleep habits and helping students with their sleep. Not just quantity, but quality. So we are engaging with this organization, and over the right, you'll see Health, Wellness, and Safety Committee. This naturally lands there because Wake Up and Learn has things to say about later school start times, but it has a lot to say about other aspects of sleep health and hygiene as well. So we're landing the conversation in a general commitment to student health and safety and wellness. And then we'll roll that out next on Monday. We'll explain what the Wake Up and Learn organization is. We'll have actually a little somebody from the organization to help us learn what that is. And then at the end of next month is when we'll actually start talking about details of what the start times might look like here, should we move them later. That first October meeting is actually what time would elementary start, what time would middle, so forth. What would the high school day schedule look like? That's the first chunk. Then we move to November, where we'll chunk the busing details. What times might the buses run through the district? We have a couple options that will be shared out in detail. We could keep our existing approach, which is 2 tiers of busing, secondary together and elementary by themselves. Or we could keep that, or we can move to a triple tier option, which is middle schools and by themselves, high school by themselves, elementary by themselves. Obviously more cost, but it has benefits too. We'll share all the details of that. In December, we're going to share out details about what after school activities might look like, especially athletics, but not only athletics. It has to do with clubs, has to do with employment opportunities. And then also in December, we're going to spell out some specifics as it goes to childcare and how our North Monco students might be impacted by later school start times. So we've essentially chunked things into 4 different meetings. At each, there'll be opportunity to hear feedback. At each, there'll be opportunity for us to share details. And then when we get into January, that says big picture review. And that really just means like, what does the whole thing look like? Now that everyone has all the details about the athletic practices, now that everyone has all the details about what childcare opportunities may or may not be available before school, put it all together, have more opportunity for stakeholders to share their sense and their feedback and their preferences. Both meetings in January. As you note, we'll continue to stay updated in Health, Wellness, and Safety Committee with Wake Up and Learn. Because remember, that's not just start times, that's sleep hygiene in general. And then we were going to vote on this matter in February of 2023. But as previously noted, we made this a 3-year goal. And so the board vote is now in February of 2024. And then depending on how the vote goes, we'll either have another plan or how we roll it out, in which case we'll go to Communications Committee and get input on how that's best done, sharing with stakeholders. All the while, regardless how the vote goes, we're staying with Wake Up and Learn, because there's a lot to be gained from that organization in terms of their focus on the value of sleep, habits, hygiene, et cetera. So that's the plan for the rollout of the fall details. What questions can I answer?
So a couple of questions I had. First of all, I love Wake Up and Learn. The presentation we had in exec session was great. I really like this company. I also like that they're really neutral on the issue. So the information putting out is really about sleep hygiene and the importance of it. So it's not really, trying to sway people one way or another, but rather just show them the importance of sleep. And I wanted to just clarify the Wake Up and Learn survey results, just so the community knows that's not a survey regarding the school start times. That's a survey regarding the sleep study we're going to do.
Uh,
That's not till April.
Correct. Wake Up and Learn has a really good survey that will, of course, be optional. It will try to get at what sleep habits exist now, and the results of which will be confidential, only no names, of course. And that will be done in the spring, so that once we set the table, with Wake Up and Learn, have them share out in community forum. I think we're scheduling one for November sometime. People can come and be there in person. We'll also tape it. And then there will be opportunities from that survey for parents and stakeholders, if they're interested, to pursue individual needs and things on their own pace.
Great. And as far as a survey though, so one of my concerns with the survey we did last year is I felt at the time we took the survey, information wasn't out there. Parents, community members, students didn't really know how this was going to look, how it was going to impact their life. If I'm taking the survey as a parent or student and I don't know if I'm going to be able to make my after school sports and no one's given me a clear answer to that, I don't know that I'm going to say, yes, I'm in favor of this. I probably would have deferred to no. And same with the video that was presented. I feel like the video that was presented to students, especially prior to doing the survey, was sort of slanted in certain ways and kind of didn't give answers, but kind of raised more questions. So do we plan to do another survey of our students or community once we start putting out more information? Like we have this feedback opportunity in January, just to see how feelings about this may have changed now in light of actually having answers to the questions.
We don't currently have a plan. We can certainly make that happen in January if the board would like.
Maybe that's something that could be discussed in health, wellness, and safety, and see if that's something the committee would be interested in.
I think we should probably that's probably one of those things we should have here, so everyone can
Okay.
hear the conversation and pitch in and chime in. But if it's January, we certainly have time to.
Yeah, we have some time to discuss before then. Okay. Okay, actually, that's all I had. Anyone else comment?
So, Jim, just for everyone's knowledge, can you please get into how Wake Up and Learn is funded? Because that's not being funded by us, but actually is being funded by a grant. So it's all like, it's almost pro bono for us. I don't know how you'd say it, but we actually are getting this service at no cost to the district.
Well, yes, I think that's what I'll do is I'll make a note that on Monday night when we introduce Wake Up and Learn, we'll go into that piece, which is very important.
And Jim, as far as these topics go, how do we plan to market these? I don't know if that's the right word either, but to the community. Like I know tonight I saw things on Facebook, kind of not advertising, I don't know how to say it, but kind of publicizing that we're going to discuss this tonight. Like some of these topics, like childcare, for example, if I'm an elementary parent, that's going to be something really important to me. Are we going to share that out like with the HSAs? Like how are we going to get the word out to the stakeholders that are going to be impacted, hear the information we're putting out there?
The answer is through every available means we have, which is another reason why we like these public board meetings, because people are invited to come if they want in person. They can watch live online, or they can catch the YouTube recording at whatever time is convenient for them. So we'll get it out there that on, say, November 6th, we're going to talk about the busing details, and it's going to look different for elementary versus middle versus high. Join us or dial online, or we'll have it the next day available for you to peruse. And if you watch the YouTube video later at your own time, or if you just think of a question later for whatever reason, we still have the feedback button on the website so people can provide thoughts that way as well.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
I just had a quick comment. I think it's really good that we're laying this out and trying to explain everything clearly. So thank you so much for that. And I did want to say that maybe we can call up your old colleague across Bethlehem Pike, Steve Yanni, who's now at Lower Marion, who just passed the later start times for next year. Their high school will start at 8:30 and go to 3:15. So that's an interesting sort of reference to have and see how they're going to be doing their sports and things like that.
Yes, former and current colleague. He's still in the county. He can run, but he can't hide from me. Yes, we will definitely take a look at how Lower Marion is progressing with their plan. There might be some adjustments from what was passed though in June, so I will keep my finger on that.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else?
Yeah, Jim, I just want to reiterate again regarding this later school start time piece is that for me personally, like I have no like doubts about the health and medical sort of benefits of later school start times for our young folks. For me, what I want to do though is be able to weigh that against the cost or disruption of actually putting into place here. So then I could kind of compare, and on balance, if I feel like the benefits outweigh the cost, then I'll vote yes. Right. Last year, I felt like I didn't have enough information about how we were going to implement it. I had information on how we could possibly maybe implement it, but without an understanding of what the costs of putting it in place were in terms of like disruption and inconvenience and who's going to be impacted and so forth. I couldn't make that judgment again, weighing that against the benefits, which I believe are valid. So what I'm hoping for is that when we get to January, or I guess the first week of February, is that we as a board can vote on a clearly defined plan of how we are going to implement it. And in some cases, we just have to make the call. We could go A, B, or C on this with regard to athletics. We can go A, B, or C regarding North Monco with before care, after care, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these options, but I think what I want to be able to vote on is a recommended plan for which of those options we're going to do if we do this. So again, I can compare the costs and disruption of putting into place with what I believe are the real and known benefits of later school start times.
Thanks, Joe. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you for that presentation, Jim. All right, we will move on now to our assistant superintendent report. Dr. Dewan.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Tonight, I have one item for review under the Assistant Superintendent's report. At our October 2nd board meeting, we will be seeking board approval to adopt the elementary reading and math after school program. Last year, you may recall our elementary schools were not able to run this program due to low response rate for filling the after school program positions. So you'll notice in the information in board docs, this year, we're proposing some intentional shifts in the program structure, which are targeting ways that we can hopefully make this program more appealing for our Wissahickon staff to fill the after-school program positions. We are starting the recruiting process earlier in the year so we can identify whether or not we need to shift to seeking outside personnel to fill the positions. Some of the intentional shifts include offering teachers flexibility with session commitments and including, hopefully we are proposing that we include some instructional aides as a part of the program with one aide for each of the content programs in each of the buildings. So that would be 2 aides per building. We are planning to engage our student support teachers, the teachers on special assignment, to assist with providing lesson plans and resources for the program to help to lift a little bit of the responsibility off of the staff who are filling these positions. We also intend to, or are proposing to the board that we raise the pay rate for this program, and that'll be reviewed under the Human Resources report tonight for board approval next week. So in terms of the after-school program structure, in the past, it's been 12 to 14 weeks long. This year, we're recommending 18 weeks long so that we can comprise 3 6-week sessions. That is where the flexibility comes into play for staff who are willing to help fill the positions. The focus of the program will continue to be reading and math. And as in the past, the structure will be reading for grades 2 and 3 and math for grades 4 and 5 for targeting those interventions. And one clarifying note that I want to make sure we all keep in mind is this program is not intended as homework help. It's focusing on interventions and teaching and reteaching some of the instructional content. I want to say a special thank you to our new supervisor of curriculum, Mrs. Sue Kanapka, for coordinating the program across our elementary schools. That concludes my report, unless there are any questions from the board.
Yes, Dr. Dewan, how many students, and I apologize if it's in here and I missed it, but how many students will we be able to accommodate in each program, reading and math?
We typically try to cap the class size at 15, I believe. And so that'll be for each of the classrooms. So 15 times 4 would be 60 total.
So 15 per grade, okay.
Per grade level, per grade level, per school.
Okay, and the principal will be making those determinations?
The school teams have a set of data criteria that they'll be using to identify students that that'll be eligible for invitation for the program.
And will we open it up to additional students, again, within the 15 per grade, if the students that are invited choose not to attend, just like we have the summer program where students choose not to attend?
We do have criteria for filling as sort of like that next layer of student invitations, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Other questions or comments?
Along the same lines, do we have, I doubt this will happen, but do we have a minimum threshold? Like we have to have at least 5 students or, something along those lines for it to be a viable program per grade, per school, for it to happen?
We don't have criteria outlined as a part of this proposal for minimum. That has not typically been a problem. If there were to somehow be a situation where there is a small group for a particular grade level at a school, the team would then look at the next layer of data to invite the next group who would potentially be eligible for criteria. So I don't anticipate that we would find ourselves in a situation where there, for example, are only 3 students in a given grade level who have committed to the program.
Yeah, I doubt it too.
We have endless students, right? We can continue to look at the next layer of data and the next layer of data.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very excited for this, and I think it's hopefully we could get our teachers interested in working with our students in this program. Great work. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No? All right, well, thank you again, Dr. Dewan.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on now to our board solicitor report. Michelle?
Thank you. For approval for the next meeting is going to be a settlement agreement between family, student, and the district. The redacted settlement agreement is attached and for the board's review. And that is the only part of the solicitor's report tonight.
Thank you, Michelle. Were there any questions or comments for Michelle? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Seeing none, we'll move on to our board secretary report. Wade?
Thank you. At the next meeting, we'll be requesting approval of the August 22nd regular public board meeting minutes, the August 22nd Health and Wellness and Safety Committee meeting minutes, and the September 18th Communication Committee meeting minutes.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? No. All right, we'll move on to the board treasurer report then, Wade.
Thank you. At the next meeting, we'll be requesting approval for the acceptance and minuting of the treasurer's report for August 31st.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, thank you again. We'll move on to our human resources report. Danielle?
Good evening again. So tonight, after your review are 10 action items under section 12 of the Human Resources Report. The first 3 action items include resignations, retirements, appointments, changes of status, leaves of absence, extracurricular changes, and volunteer and substitute additions. Item 4 is for the approval of column movement on the salary schedule for specific levels of educational attainment. Items 5 and 6 include induction, mentors, and conference requests. 12.7 is for the approval of the rate of the elementary after-school program as described just so recently by Dr. Dewan. 12.8 is for the approval of the additional hours of our current job coaches, part-time job coaches to assist with the Wissahickon Virtual Academy, the WVA. Our job coaches currently work with school-age transition high school students at community-based work sites. They provide on-the-job training, and this would be in addition to those duties limited to 4 hours per week in total. And then 12.9 is the renewal of our agreement with Gallagher Benefits, our benefit services and consulting firm. And then finally, 12.10 is for the approval of the job descriptions for extracurricular clubs. Thank you for your review. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Danielle. Any comments or questions? All right, thank you so much. We'll move on now to our communications committee report. Oh, and Zephy has stepped out, so we'll come back. Oh, and she's back.
Sorry about that. Thanks for your patience. As Dr. Crisfield mentioned, we did have a meeting last week where we talked about both Wake Up and Learn and the early start times and the communications around that. We all, as board members, had an opportunity to look at that and kind of put in our input, as well as Miss Rawlings and Sue DuPoy showed us some examples of the resources that we're going to get from Wake Up and Learn that we will share both via email, social, etc. So there's going to be a lot of communication coming out from that team, and it's going to correlate a lot with the Health and Wellness Communications Committee as well. So there's a lot of coordination between those two groups. So we'll probably be doing some joint meetings as well as we're getting all that information ready and published out to the community. Any questions, concerns, comments? That's it for me then. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Zephy. All right, Curriculum Technology Committee. Ronnie?
I'm going to turn these over to Dr. Dewan because she can do this better.
Thank you. We have one informational item and 5 action items for review this evening. Regarding our informational item, we wanted to highlight the ways in which we continue to engage our administrative team in monthly trainings on topics to support our district's work toward equity and belongingness. New this year, as a part of the administrative training opportunities, we'll be seeking consultation from a professor from Arcadia University, Dr. Graciela Slazarensky-Poe, who will be providing professional learning for our administrative team as we continue to work on building capacity for knowing how to foster that community of belongingness for our students and staff. Specifically, our consultation with Dr. Slazarensky-Poe will focus on helping our administrative team increase our understanding of the LGBTQIA+ student community. Additionally, we plan to provide an optional community conversation session for parents and caregivers to engage in discussions about the sense of belonging for students who identify as a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. The purpose of this community conversation is going to be to help us to create a space for meaningful conversations as we center inclusion and belonging for all of our students. As you may recall, the board's Racial Equity Oversight Committee worked with the district administration to host a community conversation session last year and our plan with REOC, the Racial Equity Oversight Committee, is to host 2 community conversation sessions again this year. So this one that I'm referencing will be a 3rd community conversation for this current school year. All of our community conversations are intended to engage with our community to help us to improve our efforts as we work to ensure our staff and students feel a sense of belonging in our school district. More information will be shared with the board and the community about these community conversations as we prepare to engage. But for now, does the board have any questions before I move on to our action items?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
With Dr. Dewan, what you were mentioning with the LGBTQ community plus community, did that come at the recommendation of some of the conversations that I think Ms. Latour had and maybe you with some of our leaders in the community?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
Any other comments? Not seeing any, Dr. Dewan.
Okay, thank you. All right, so tonight we have 5 action items for review, which will seek board approval next week. We have the MCIU Shared Services Plan Final Reconciliation for the 22-23 school year. We have an annual renewal of our IEP writer subscription. We have acceptance. We'll be seeking for the board to approve the acceptance of a donation from Trek Bicycles for our high school adventure education program. We are going to be seeking approval of an extended field trip request for college and career readiness to visit Lincoln University. And finally, we'll be seeking approval for the first payment of the MCIU Age of Beginner Services for the 23-24 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Dewan. I am really excited about the bike donations. I think that is just wonderful. So glad we were able to work that out with Trek. That's just great. Other comments, questions? All right, none. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on now to our Facilities and Transportation Committee. Joe?
Sure, thanks, Amy. We have 3 action items for review tonight and then vote next week. And I'm going to ask Wade to maybe give us a quick summary of the 3, please.
Thank you. So the first item we do twice a year. It's the approval to discard, sell, or obsolete equipment according to policy 714. There's a summary and then there's a lot of detail behind it. Item 15-2 is the approval of various escrows and fees related to the development of the Bluebell addition and renovation property project. And item 3 is the approval of the award for the Bluebell Elementary Bamboo Treatment and Eradication Project for $24,500. We do have a bamboo problem and we need to get rid of bamboo. So those are our items that we're hopeful to get approval for at the next meeting.
Thanks, Wade. And bamboo is really hard to get rid of, by the way. Any questions about any of those?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about the bamboo treatment. Like what happens, like it is really hard to get rid of. Like what happens if they come out and treat it, try to eradicate it and it just comes back? Is it like, is their work guaranteed or warranted? Like, are they going to come back out again when new bamboo pops up?
So great question. I think that the treatment that has been bid is put together by somebody who knows bamboo. It was a professionally put together bid. I don't think there's any guarantee because I think it would be difficult to bid it based on how invasive bamboo is. But I do believe that this will work. And if it does come back up, we will be diligent about knocking it down so that it doesn't grow to the problem that it currently is.
Thank you.
And Marshall said plan B is to bring in some pandas. That's it for the report. Thanks.
I was gonna say, can we just get some dads out there and then we'll split the money between the HSAs?
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you
Just
so much.
one
Wade.
follow-up.
Stephanie, yeah.
Sorry for my email exchange, just for the public, whatever we don't sell, we do try to donate, so we're trying not to fill landfills, so. For 15.1.
Any other comments? All right, again, thank you, Joe and Wade, for that report. Move on now to our Finance Committee report. David?
Thanks, Amy. It'll be hard to follow up after bamboo, but we, Finance Committee will be asking for approval of 4 different action items next week, including approval of financial reports for the months ending June 30th, July 31st, and August 31st of this year. Approval of Coyle, Lynch and Company or other appraisers for fees relating to additional assessment appeals. We'll be asking for approval of purchase of classroom furniture for the middle school edition that we were fortunate to tour this evening. And finally, approval of the list of payments issued for the month ending August 31st. If there are any questions, I would refer those to Mr. Coleman.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? All right, well then, thank you so much. We'll move on now to our Policy Committee report. Marshall?
Thank you, Amy. Tonight, I have one informational item, which is a committee meeting recap from our September 18th meeting, the first one of the year, going over certain revised or added policies As you know, we completed our 3-year revision of all of the entire policy manual. But now we are dealing with different policies as they arise. So just to give you a recap, they will include some additions, as I said, as well as some revisions. Board policy number 006 regarding meetings is a revision. And this is to policy related to voting by the board, specifically changes relative to the requirements for the number of directors present for affirmative board action. Board policy 114 regarding gifted education is a new policy. And this is based upon changes to the Pennsylvania School Code on the topic of home education. And this has to do with requirements for students who want to enroll in co-curricular and academic courses in K through 12 public schools. And under these new provisions, students may participate in these courses equaling up to 1/4 of the school day for full-time district students. 137.3 is somewhat related in that it is a new policy as well, also directed to changes to the code related to home education. This one has to do with participation in career and technical education programs for secondary school students. Board policy 201 regarding the admission of students is a revised policy. This one has to do with students who are younger than the beginning age and who may enroll in the district. And this exception would apply to students who have successfully completed a licensed private academic kindergarten program recognized by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Board policy number 702 is a revised policy under the definition of gifts, grants, and donations. And this pertains to equipment and supplies that become property of the district, things such as playgrounds, structural equipment, signs, etc. It does not apply to consumables in that regard. Board policy number 830 is a new policy, as is 830.1. 830 has to do with security of computerized personal information. And under PSBA guidelines, this new policy is a requirement under the Breach of Personal Information Act, having to do with policies and procedures for the discovery and determination of computerized data breaches and notification requirements. The final one I had mentioned was 830.1, having to do also with personal information, computerized personal information. And this is having to do with requirements regarding addressing data encryption and security, as well as storage, respectively, and the district's responsibility to ensure the integrity of such data that is created, collected, stored, and managed by the school entities. So those are the policies that we went over at the last meeting. And based upon that recap at the next meeting, I will be asking for approval of the first reading of these board policies, which is 17.2 through 17.9.
Thank you, Marshall. Are there any comments or questions about any of those policies? No? All right, well, thank you so much for that report. We'll now move on to our Racial Equity Oversight Committee report. Paul?
Thanks, Amy. We have no action items for this evening. However, we do have a list of upcoming REOC meetings and the corresponding agendas that will go with them. Dr. Dewan, I don't know if you wanted to talk about those, or would you like me to read that list?
I'm happy to, if you'd like for me to step in, I certainly can. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
you might be able to add a few more details.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Badger. So our first meeting will be coming up on October 16th, which will be virtual, and it'll be a public meeting for anyone to tune in to learn about the topic of special education identification. As you know, our Racial Equity Oversight Committee meetings look at specific topic areas digging into the data and reflecting on what we have done and what we can continue to do, or some new approaches to addressing some of the racial disparities we see in our data. And so with that first topic of special education identification, we'll be digging into the data on that topic. November 20th is our first community conversations with REAC. That'll be at 7 o'clock in person at a location in at the Ambler Borough Hall. Information will be pushed out to the community for you to RSVP so that we can make sure we have enough chairs and refreshments for those of you who will be joining. The rest of the list of topics are listed here, January 16th. Our topic will be disciplinary responses, looking at the disparities we see in our data and addressing some of those issues that we see. February 20th, we'll be looking at gifted and advanced placement courses. Again, identifying what the data show in our district as it relates to racial disparities and approaches that we have taken and approaches that we can continue to explore in terms of new approaches. March 11th, REAC will be hosting with the district administration a second community conversation as a part of our Racial Equity Oversight Committee efforts. That'll be a location to be determined in our Wissahickon community. And then April 15th, our REAC meeting will focus on belongingness. And so we'll dig into the data and we'll look at some of the approaches we've taken in the district to address the need for ensuring our students and staff feel the sense of belonging. So first things first though, October 16th, tune in for our virtual meeting that'll focus on special education identification, and mark your calendars for November 20th for the in-person community conversations. More information will be coming soon about that community conversations. Again, we'll need people to RSVP, so look for the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dewan. We're really excited about the program for this year. We're also equally excited about the introduction of more interactive sessions with the community. So all that is an effort to have more transparency, more interaction, and feedback from the broader community and not just the representatives that are part of the REAC. So we're looking forward to the new year.
Great, that's wonderful, Paul. Yeah, I look forward to these sessions. And I love that our committees are continuing to hold meetings virtually so that more people in the public can continue to engage and participate in those meetings. So this is great. Thank you so much. All right, health, wellness, and safety. Rosetta. Oh, actually, were there any other questions or comments? Sorry about that. No. Okay, thank you again. Rosetta.
So our health, wellness, and safety, thanks, Amy. Our health, wellness, and safety committee met on August 22nd. Oh, met on August 22nd. We had a wonderful presentation from Wake Up and Learn by Dr. Morris. And at that time, we discussed some of the topics that we will be talking about through the year. Some of them, to just touch on a few things, are walking to school safely, anti-bullying and kindness, and other athletic safety, safety in athletics, and also work-life, school life balance is another thing that we will be talking about. Our next meeting will be on October 16th, and we'll be talking about walking to school and athletics and safety. The next meeting will be in January, and at each of these meetings, we'll also continue to talk about Wake Up and Learn. It was a very impressive presentation, and I think really important in sleep hygiene and how important sleep is for kids and learning. And that's it.
Great, thanks, Rosetta. Those are some great topics. Any comments or questions?
I actually have something. Speaking of school life balance and sleep hygiene, I'm interested to hear from Blake and Gavin, how much homework do you have on night, like average per night? How many hours do you spend, would you say?
This has definitely increased over the years. I would say junior year mainly is the highest amount of homework you will have in high school, and the fall of senior year, usually due to applying to colleges on top of all the homework that you're having. But as you move into junior year and senior year, it's more common for students to start taking harder classes, APs and stuff. I struggle with now, like balancing my school life, because it seems like all night I'm doing homework between last year and this year. But I put that pressure on myself because looking at future plans, like where I want to be, I made that decision myself, but I have to sacrifice a lot to do so.
Yeah. Last year, yeah, it was a lot. I had, I think, average 6 hours of homework a night because I took AP US history. So that's.
Did you say 6, Gavin?
Yes, I did.
When were you doing this homework? Can you give me a time frame?
Yeah, so right after school, so like around 3 to about 9. Yeah, I was doing homework. I mean, I did procrastinate about 30 minutes here and there on TikTok. So I guess it was only 5 hours and 30 minutes, but yeah. And then this year, like Blake was saying, like with college applications and then also still taking AP classes in the fall, I've had less homework, like 4 hours, but still a lot. Like I have homework after this, sadly, but so yeah, it's hard to balance, but it's like also like it comes with the territory, I think, with a lot of the classes that we're both taking.
So how many AP classes did you both take last year and how many are you taking this year, just for a reference point, just to kind of get that as a metric?
So I took 3 last year. It was AP US History, AP Seminar, and AP English Language. This year I'm taking 4. AP Research, AP Literature, AP Government, and another one I'm forgetting right now for some reason. But yeah.
There are. Last year I took 2. I took AP Calc, AB, and AP US History. This year I'm taking 4. AP Art, which is really fun actually. AP Calc BC, AP Physics, and I think that's 4. But yeah, no, it really makes me think a lot of times when I'm up late doing homework, like straight from when I get home to when I go to sleep, how much should school take up of my life? Obviously I still have weekends, but for the majority of my weekends, I am doing schoolwork, especially now I'm focusing a lot on my college applications, but basically the majority of my time right now, I mean, obviously I'm in school for 7 hours a day, and then I'm going home and continuing my schoolwork. Again, it is my choice, but it is very large in my life right now. Some would say overbearing. But yeah, I did this to myself, I could say.
You can stop saying that.
And do you do sports or extracurriculars or work?
Yeah, I have a lot of extracurriculars. I think Blake can say that as well. So I think that's also the reason why it takes up a lot of our time.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you feel, this is an opinion, just yours, do you feel like it's too much? Could your homework be condensed into a smaller amount of time without sacrificing academic rigor that we're all very concerned about?
I definitely think that. I think I've been saying that for a while actually, since around sophomore year. I think there's a lot of students who I think overextend themselves because there is such an emphasis on the rigor of like what your education is supposed to be, like what your future is supposed to be. But I also think that leads to a lot of mental health issues and a lack of like school and then like outside life balance. So I really think homework could be condensed, especially because I feel like a lot of it could be classwork. I don't know the curriculum exactly, but I think a lot of it could be classwork. So yeah, that's just mine.
Yeah, but there are classes such as AP US History that we both took, where outside of school, it is required that you read the whole textbook of AP US History. You do not, it is huge. So you read all of that for homework outside of class. I mean, that would take me like 2 hours.
Yeah.
It'd be like very long chapters, but you basically read that whole curriculum outside of school. So that takes up a lot of time. Again, there are kids who are taking much more APs than we are. And there obviously are kids that are not, and that is totally fine. People make these decisions for themselves. But again, it would come down to the class for like how much we could condense homework. But for some classes, it is definitely necessary, maybe less for some. It could, that would definitely have to change on like a micro level.
Rather than like a policy level, you're saying it would have to be up to the individual class and teacher?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that would most likely make sense because there's also, especially for these AP classes, we have to meet the curriculum by the test date. And And it's like already, I remember last year, again, we keep using AP US history as a class example, but we would be crammed on time, preparing for essays and tests coming up. We would use all of the class time that we had, just going over and reviewing the material again for that AP test. And then we actually really learn the curriculum outside of school, but that's just one class, just as an example. I hope in the future, kids are not as stressed as in this time we currently are. I feel like it
Do you
is.
feel that you're pretty representative of your classmates as well and how they're feeling about their lives right now?
Well, we can't speak for all of them because not all of them are taking AP courses, and that's totally okay, like Blake was saying. But for the ones who are, I can definitely say that we speak for a lot of them. And something else that I wanted to add, I think it is really based on the schedule as well. I remember in AP US history, we keep saying this, but we didn't have, like, when we have the, what is it? How long is it? 56-minute classes. We can't really get through the entire lesson. And that's because of like how much we have to cover in the class. It was really block sessions that we got a lot of work done, and it's different for like academic level or honors classes. So it's just hard to fit like a college level class in that time period. So I think that's also why we had so much homework in those courses. But yeah.
Yeah, and there are even out of AP classes, there are expectations to be met for honors classes. Again, if students are, say, performing less well in the final exams, after we make a policy of doing less homework, that honestly could be realistic. Homework obviously reinforces what we learned in the class afterwards. And I bet homework obviously improves our understanding of the curriculum, but it is a lot to handle right now as seniors, but most of it's behind us. We will be in the senioritis, people call it soon enough.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's an informal term of that seniors give up, but we don't really give up. We don't intend to give up, but
Maybe you just need a
ease
break,
up.
Blake.
Yes, a break would.
Maybe you just need a
Blake, I'm sorry, your microphone is off right now.
Blake and Gavin, so both of you knew going into this, though, I think, like you've said a couple times, like you knew going into this, the amount of time and commitment that was going to be required, and you still decided to go ahead and take these classes. So I'm.
Yeah. If you had to do it over again, would you do this the same way?
I think I would, only because I know the future benefits. I really think that's the reason why a lot of people take it. Especially for AP US history, like I want to go into law in the future, and I know that I will have to take history courses in college. I mean, everyone does for like, general, but so I think that will help me. And especially like AP English language, I want to go into English major. So it made sense with what I chose. But for a lot of APs, I feel like some people just take them because they feel like they have to. And for those people, I've heard that they probably wouldn't do it again because of how much they overextended themselves just to fit a standard that they thought they had to meet.
I definitely agree with that. I would do it again just because of the types of colleges that I'm applying to. That was a huge decision in me choosing to take AP classes, because how selective colleges are nowadays, and it's increasingly growing, they are looking for students to challenge themselves and take advantage of the resources that we have, because our school does offer so many AP classes. And that is an amazing thing. We should take advantage of them. So I would do it. Maybe a little bit less. I want to be an architect, so I do want to take my calculus classes and my physics classes, maybe even art class, like AP wise. But I don't know, like I had to sacrifice other things. I had to sacrifice even working out last year because of the amount of homework that I had, which really was disappointing, but time management is a skill that you have to learn nowadays. And we were like kind of forced to, but, which is good, but it's a lot.
So the reason I asked about, you chose this, like, I'm wondering, like, I know AP courses is one of the things we're looking at with REOC. And as we've looked at the achievement gap, we've looked at AP courses in the past. I'm just wondering if students choose not to take them because of, the reputation that they carry, that you're going to be doing 4 to 6 hours of homework in the evening.
Well, first of all, we haven't listed an outlier, and Gavin is a little bit of an outlier with her 6-hour number there. But that's not a criticism or anything. That's just like, that's a dedicated student who spends 6 hours on homework. Yes, students do make choices based on what they know will be the homework load, and then they also make choices based on what Blake and Gavin told us about what society or higher education's expectations for the students' time in high school. It's not healthy for society and the elite colleges, which I know these two are going to. I did also hear that their favorite subject was U.S. history, so they're going to get a lot of credit for that. Just as soon as I can get up tomorrow. But for AP classes, you cannot carry out an AP class with 25 minutes of homework a night. It just doesn't work that way. And so if you choose to take 4, and both of these students, by the way, the finest representatives we have of WIS Nation here, told us they chose to take 4 AP classes, and it's strenuous. What I do feel like, though, I feel like I'm standing on a beach right now, like close to the water line, but not facing the water. And all of a sudden, this massive wave just hit me in the back of the legs. And as the water comes out, I feel like I'm going backwards in a way that's not pleasant. The homework topic, not scheduled for discussion tonight, is incredibly involved. And making hearing from our students is awesome. We certainly will do more of that, but this requires participation of the teachers. We expect our teachers to effectively teach an AP exam or a class, and we do take a look at how our students do on that AP exam at the end of the year. Well, there's some built-in pressure right there. I'm not saying it's great, but it's just is. And then these students who take AP, say history last year, take the exam, and maybe it's required, or maybe just choose to submit it or whatever, but people are looking, and it's just not going to work in 25 minutes, which is a problem. And it's sort of like we are feeling the pressure of society telling our students, our very best students and others, that they have to go all these AP and everything is, you just max yourselves out to whatever these district offers. But I heard both of them say that one of the problems they have is that our school offers so much, and the elite colleges know it. If we only offered 1 AP, we'd be in better shape. They'd have less homework at night. So.
I apologize. I didn't mean to go on a tangent. With the conversation of sleep hygiene, I think that's a pressing topic for our kids and the reason why they don't get to sleep on time. And so I just thought it was important to hear from you two on your opinion on what your experience is. And I really do thank you for your input and candor. Thank you.
Not to belabor this topic, and I'm sure it's one that we'll have more conversation on at another time, but I think we should really also be commending both of you and all the students who are putting forth all this extra effort to stand out and to exert yourself. Although it may be uncomfortable, the payoffs and the benefits will surely come when you get accepted to the schools that you want to go to and you go into the professions that you want to go to. I guarantee when you get to law school and when you're studying for your architectural exams, all this will pay off. So we can't lose sight of that as well. But one other question I wanted to ask along with that, have we looked at what statistically our students do who take these AP courses and the other courses? Do we track the schools that they get into? Do we track their performance going into college? I'm sure they're going to be much better prepared than the average student might be who may choose not to take these classes. Do we have any data to
We have
support one way or the other?
there's some loosely reliable data on how students do after high school. It's not correlated though to whether they took APs here. It's just, we do want to pay attention. Actually, what we really pay attention to is, do they make it through in 4 years? And then if not 4 or 5, if not that, I mean, the real troubling variable is students, not, of course, these two won't have this happen, but 2 students who start college, can crawl at debt and then don't make it. That's a real nationwide problem. And we're not immune to it here. And that's what we were trying to look at to see, like, gee, what happened to, is there anything that we can discern from those students' experience in high school that might be a leading indicator of that? And then can we interrupt it before they leave us?
Again, not to belabor AP, but on this curriculum for agenda items for the Racial Equity Oversight Committee. Good job, guys, with making it both virtual and in person. I'm really excited about that. But we have AP courses listed, and I've asked this in the past multiple times, but in order to get into an AP class, you actually have to be in honors to kind of make the step into AP. Are we tracking how we're doing? Like, are these students on the right track to get from academic to honors to AP? Because you don't go from academic to AP. So are we helping them bridge that gap? Are we tracking that? Because I feel like we look at AP in isolation a lot of times.
I think those are great questions. The reason we have AP course enrollment in our equity indicators on the equity dashboard and also in the annual conversations in REOC is that a student who chooses to enroll in at least one AP course is giving a signal that they have the confidence in the classroom to take the next step at some point. So yes, we've looked at how does one get into AP, and if not 4, but maybe 1 would be an awesome stretch for them. Did we prepare them with honors year or 2 ahead of that? Is there some sort of gate that prevents them from choosing AP, in which case we need to look at that. So the AP course discussion in REOC is really more to do about equity and making sure that all of our students have access to one AP course, where this conversation tonight really landed, in my mind, more in the health, safety, and wellness realm, which is just have, these two are trying to create 45 hours of work into one 24-hour time period, and it's just impossible. But yes, we do look at the time leading up, especially 9th grade, by the way, time leading up to AP time.
So Jim, I know we've kind of talked about this a lot, but I just have to comment on this. So gifted and AP courses are one of the key areas in the Racial Equity Oversight Committee, mainly because, well, let's take a step back. The benefit of AP courses, there's some research that's out there. Now, you have to take a little bit with a grain of salt because it's research that was sponsored by the College Board, who administers the AP exam. But nevertheless, they have research that shows that students who have taken at least one AP course during their high school career have a much higher persistence rate in college and a much higher 4-year college graduation rate. So a lot of people don't know this, but in general, overall, nationwide, there's only a 50% college graduation rate of people who go to college. So we're not talking about the high flyers at the Ivy League schools or the top tier schools that we all know about. But again, nationwide, it's only about a 50% graduation rate for people who enter college. But again, there's some research that shows that if you've taken at least one AP course sometime in your high school career, you have higher rates of college completion. And so there's some belief that there might be some inoculation type effect, whereas a student who takes one AP level course that is similar to college rigor, it does a few things. One, it introduces them to what college is going to be like. And when they get through it, they have a sense that they can handle this, they can do it. And then it helps prepare them when they actually do go to a college environment to be able to like ratchet up to that level of expectation, right? Now, with that being said, if you look at Wissahickon and you look at the enrollment statistics of who's in AP courses and even our honors courses, you'll see dramatic differences in the percentage of Black and brown students that are in our AP courses. And Gavin, in her AP classes, I bet you she could tell you from personal experience, there's not a lot of other students that look like her. Am I right?
Yeah, I was actually going to talk about that after you talked about it.
Yeah.
I just want to know, like, are we seeing who's getting recommended for these AP and honors courses? Because I can guarantee you it's a very low amount of Black and brown students, because I've seen it in pretty much all of my honors and AP classes. I think last year I was the only Black person in my AP English class. I was one of two in my AP US History class. I was the only one in my AP Seminar class. I was the only one in I'm actually one of two in my calculus class this year. So I have experienced it and seen it. And I think it comes down to acknowledgement as well. Like when you're not recommended for these classes, it's not that you don't want to try to succeed. It's not that you don't want to try to show that you want to move on to higher education. It's just a lack of someone just telling you like, hey, I think you can do this. Like there's a lot of students not getting that. And I see it pretty much every day.
Yeah, and so in the Racial Equity Oversight Committee, at least from my perspective, I'm focused on student outcomes. What I see in the data is huge racial disparities about who is in our AP classes or even our honors classes versus who's not. And for me, it's about pushing us as a district to examine what are the dynamics, so what are the processes, what are the policies in place in our system that produce these disparate results? And how can we do things differently to have a more representative group of students that are taking advantage of all the AP courses that we offer? Again, because there are some benefits to having taken at least one in high school before you move on to college. And the research also shows that impact, that positive benefit in terms of like retention and graduation in college is greatest for low-income students, first-generation students, and students of color. So even more so that we should be focusing on a district and trying to examine ourselves of what are we doing as a system to produce these results and how can we improve upon them over time?
Thank you, Joe. Are there any other comments? I know we kind of gotten off topic. But any other comments on that topic or the agenda items for the upcoming meetings for health, wellness, and safety? No? All right. Well, thank you everyone for your comments and that discussion on homework. I think that'd be great to have a future discussion on as well, like actually planned. All right. See, we're moving on. Extracurricular committee. Marshall?
Thank you, Amy. We had our first meeting of the year on September 13th. And there will be 2 new clubs up for approval, as well as one coming back. The one coming back is the Model UN Club, which we had last year. There's interest in starting it again. They have enough numbers, as well as an advisor. So hopefully that will get approved. The second is the Black Student Union. And the third is the Latinx Hispanic Heritage Club, also with enough interest of students as well as an advisor. So they've all been approved pending approval by the full board.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions? I feel that I'm really excited about the UN Club. I was a member of UN Club for 4 years in high school. So I'm really excited to see it's coming back here.
I don't believe you're eligible, but nice to hear.
All right, moving on. NCIU, we have a meeting. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just have comments. I can speak to both the Hispanic Heritage Club and the Black Student Union. So I had the pleasure of going to the Hispanic Heritage Club's interest meeting today. And really, it's just a club where Hispanic and Latina people can really just experience their culture and celebrate it on all the time, not just on Hispanic Heritage Month. And then the Black Student Union, which I am the founder of. Yes, we are focusing on bridging gaps in the Black community because, as I said before, I'm very isolated from other Black students being in honors and AP classes. So I really struggled with that, and I saw that other Black students felt disconnected from each other. So just a place for all of us, despite economics, academics, anything else, orientation, stuff like that, to just come together and experience Black culture. So
that's wonderful. Thanks, Gavin. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, NCIU, so we have a meeting tomorrow evening, so I'll have a report for our next meeting. North Monco? I think you didn't have one, right?
There was no quorum.
No
so
quorum.
No meeting.
Okay. VSBA?
Yeah, so just really quickly, October 15th to 17th is the annual conference, which we will be represented at because Dr. Crisfield and Dr. Dewan are going to be presenting a presentation monitoring key equity indicators to address racial disparities. And I think specifically talking on the equity dashboard. So that's awesome. And we know you'll represent us well. I think Joe and Amy might go too. Yeah, and Zephy. Okay. I think I'm gonna sit this one out. There is also a virtual advocacy, there's like an advocacy week this fall. It's October 2 to 6, and there's a in-person day, October 4th. I just sent you all an email about it and how to register if interested. And the Employee Relations Committee, our first meeting this year, I guess isn't until January 22nd, which I would love if it was sooner, but I totally understand. So I look forward to that time.
Great. Thanks, Deanne. And as far as the PSBA, the advocacy week this
Yeah.
year, so is it going to be similar to last year, how we had like those sessions online? I didn't find them very effective at all.
I agree. It sounds like there's going to be virtual sessions throughout the week, but there is an in-person day on Wednesday, the 4th, that you can go to Harrisburg, and I guess they would help with setting up in-person meetings. So I think if you register through PSBA, you can do that.
Are you planning to go?
I don't know.
We'll talk about it.
All right.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, and we did the Employee Relations Committee. Okay, so we have reached our second public comment period, where we will allow you to speak for 3 minutes on any topic, a school-related topic. You do have 3 minutes. We do enforce the 3 minutes, and we'll allow 5 speakers on any particular topic. I think I actually have these backwards. Okay. So Ron, I think you were the first person to hand in your blue sheet. Oh, no, he wasn't. It was reversed. Okay, I did have it right. Actually, I apologize. I did have it right to begin with. I thought when I flipped it, well, he's already at it. Okay.
Okay, first, Ron Stoloff. I live in Whitpain, and for those of you who don't know, I was once on the board. And far be it from me to dwell on self-aggrandizement, but I'm sort of like Moses here. Ronnie and I started working on this start time discussion something like 8 to 10 years ago. And here we are. I've not gotten to the promised land, at least not in my term. But I hope that you guys do the right thing and pass the school time start at least 1 hour later for high school students. And also, you should make sure that you inform the community about the start time advantages, which was discussed earlier, that you are doing, and how much our students, especially the high school students, will benefit from at least a 1 hour later start. It's vital that we do this. You keep pushing it off, another high school class doesn't get the benefit. And we don't want to wait another 100 years before we get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Katie, is there anyone online?
Yes, we have one raised hand on Zoom. It's Christine M.
Hey, Christine, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. My name is Chris McGowan. I reside in Whitpain Township. I'd like to talk about the classroom sizes. My opinion is that the smaller classroom sizes are important after 20 students because not all students with IEPs or 504s are pulled for math or reading, as was stated. They may have 504 or IEPs for other reasons. Having higher numbers of these individuals in the classroom could be difficult for the teacher to manage and support all the needs of the students in the room and affect the efficiency of the learning of all the students. Supporting the teachers with more student aides would be beneficial if more classrooms cannot be created. This would be a reasonable way to utilize funds to support our children, especially at the elementary level. With school times, thank you for trying to introduce new information to support our children's overall wellness and sleep hygiene. I'm confused as to what led the board to say that the community didn't understand the information. Most parents I spoke to were clear on how the time changes would be beneficial or detrimental to their family structure and household. If the videos were slanted, as stated tonight, and the cost to implement this change were not given in the right time frame, why would you have shared that with us? You have the time and opportunity to review and discuss before sharing the survey and information with the public. We should look at all the district as a whole. I understand you as a board are concerned about keeping up with the school districts in other communities, But we and I live in this school district, and the policies should reflect the views of the stakeholders within our community. As a parent, we should be guiding our children to observe proper sleep hygiene. As caregivers, it is important to implement rules and structure to our children so they can get the proper sleep hygiene that they require. The school does not need to spoon feed me information about the sleep hygiene if I already have a nightly routine in place for my children or child in my home. Parents and stakeholders and students were part of the first survey and discussion. If you did not offer us the proper information in the first place, then you as a board should allow us to be a part of a new survey and accept the results that are given. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. All right, going back to in-person. So I have Amanda and Caroline. Who would like to go first? You want to go first? Okay.
Hi, my name is Caroline Hunt, and I've been struggling with math ever since 4th grade. I'm really excited that we're planning on getting the after-school program for math, but also I think we should consider doing an in-school program like during math, because some kids who have trouble with math like me, they can't really do it after school because everyone really has after-school activities. So I think it would be better to do it during math. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. And it's amazing you're able to come up here at all these meetings and talk. It's just amazing at your age. All right, is there anybody online? Okay.
I have Jen Rappaport.
All right, Jen, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Jen, you can unmute yourself.
At all these meetings.
Hi, can you hear me?
Amazing. Yes, there's some background noise though. I'm not sure when.
I have Jen Rappaport.
Jen, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Is there like a delay, Katie?
Yeah, Jen, if you're listening to the meeting, you may need to turn down your microphone on your side.
Hold on. Hi, can you hear me?
There's some background noise though. I'm not sure when. You know, Jen, hold on 1 second. There's some technical issue here.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Is that her asking again or before? Okay.
Jen
All right.
just jumped off. If she comes back on, we can bring her back in.
Yeah, let's jump over to Amanda. And then when Jen comes back on, we'll try again.
Hi, my name is Amanda Hunt. I'm a resident of Whippane Township. And I'm a mother to my daughter Caroline and my son Robert, and I'm also a school psychologist. First of all, I really am so proud of my daughter Caroline. She really wanted to come to this board meeting tonight, and I told her this was going to be a very long board meeting, and she said, "Mom, I still want to go." So I'm very proud of her for being patient and waiting so long to speak. I want to thank Dr. Dewan for pushing forward with the after-school program and trying to make some changes to entice teachers to, want to support that program and teach the after-school program. But I did have a couple of questions. I'm curious how the number 15 came up as the maximum. That does sound high to me for small group instruction for children who are struggling with math, with one teacher to 15 struggling students. So I'm curious to see if that number could be lower. I don't know if we'd have to add more staff in that case to lower that number to make smaller group sizes. And then also if there's more than 15 students per grade that are identified that need extra help in math, how will that be dealt with? Would we consider hiring more staff in that situation? And then also how many days a week would this be offered after school? And how long would the program go for? Would it be, an hour after school
What would that look like? And I, again, am also an advocate for the school district researching ways to support math during the school day. I think that, you know, with my training that I have as school psychologist on child study team and my experience in special education, I do strongly believe that in-school support is the best way to help our students, especially elementary, in math, as it is in reading, which we have, again, a wonderful reading support program, as I've stated. And if we could mirror that with math, I think that would be amazing, and it would be very helpful to students like my daughter and other students in the elementary schools. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And we don't typically engage in dialogue, but I will just note, I think if you check the agenda, the answers to some of your questions are in the agenda items on board docs, like the length of time and the days of the week. I think the answers to those two questions at least are in there. Okay.
We'll get it all published and shared.
Yeah, thank you. All right, is Jen back on?
We have Jen back on. Let's see if we can bring her in.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better. Thanks, Jen.
Okay, great. Now, I was just giving a call in about the start times, and I'm just kind of wondering why, you know, it's a big focus on it to give us more information. The last time, as far as I heard, the board is the people that are responsible for putting together the survey that was sent to us last time, and the survey indicated, I mean, first, the concerning thing is 80% of teachers, 80% of staff. That's a huge factor right there. Those are the people that come in to teach our kids every day. We're really looking for no change at all. So that's one thing that I have concern about. The other portion is, you know, if you look at what the kids, I mean, if it was kids that brought this up saying, we want to come into school later, they didn't indicate that on the survey. It was close to 50% of the students themselves that wanted to keep things the same. There was, I guess, what is it here? It looks like a little under 30% of the students that did say, yeah, we'll take an extra 20, 30 minutes. That's 20, 30 minutes. That's not going to change anybody's whole sleep cycle to come in an extra 20, 30 minutes late. Looking at students that were okay with a 45 to 50 minute delayed start time, 11%. I mean, that's not a big population of the school. And I mean, we're sending them in there to learn academics. We as the parents, we handle medical decisions. If there's a problem with sleep issues and that 11% has issues, we'll take care of that. We don't need the school to take care of it. And it's just, I feel like you already asked the pulse of the community and we answered, and we're having all these meetings now again to give us more information. We don't really seem to want more information, and here we are. So that's really it. I just have concerns about the whole idea.
Thank you for your comments, Jen. We have nobody else registered in person. Is there anyone else online? All right, well then, thank you everyone for your comments this evening. We'll move on now to board comments. Do any of my fellow board members have any comments this evening?
I have to make a quick comment. I'm really sorry. I know we all want to go home.
It's 9:30.
It's 9:30. Just real quick. The surveys that were sent out and the videos that were done were not done by the board of directors. I really need to stress that. So when we're saying that there was enough information, we were saying to the administration, you didn't do the job we wanted you to do, essentially, in the way that we wanted it done. And that's the redo. Okay. It wasn't really about the community not understanding. That's not what, I don't think we've ever used those words or accused anyone of that. We are just trying to put forth a plan that we can approve of before we vote. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Any other comments? All right, well, Duffy, did you? Okay,
Can we adjourn, please?
You're eager to make a motion to adjourn. Okay, all right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Yeah. You guys have